Congratulations on the news. Just talk to us about how important you think this will be in the campaign to fight COVID, but also the new variant.
Well, it's very important because I think that we need to have as many tools in our toolkit to fight the pandemic. It's a very resilient virus, and molnupiravir is going to be one of those tools. And it's a easy to use tool because one can take it at home. One doesn't have to worry about any other medications that one is taking, and so it's something that will be quite useful. It's also shown in vitro to be effective against the Omicron virus, so another important way in which we might be able to stem the tide of this incredibly infectious variant.
I'm wondering about the challenge there will be for the U.S. in particular when it comes to distributing and prioritizing the treatments ahead, given that the U.S. has already ordered 10 million courses of Pfizer and 3 million of Merck's.
Well, I think that we need to hurry up and distribute. We're very lucky because we have several 100,000 courses within days that will be available, and about 1 million courses that will be available in the next few weeks in the United States. So I think it's really going to be available soon to the right kind of patients. And again, the focus should be on patients who are at high risk for getting COVID complications, because that's what's been studied in the clinical trials.
And given your medical background, I'm curious how doctors would choose between the two. What scenarios would determine what pill is right for what person?
Well, I think it's important to have multiple options. And again, the key thing is we need to have medicines that will reduce the risk of hospitalization and death. Take molnupiravir, for example, medicine that's been shown to reduce the incidence of death from COVID by 90%. So that's very valuable. The kinds of patients that are eligible for molnupiravir include those that are having risk for having a complication from COVID-19, are above the age of 60, and for whom there aren't any other options available. So it's a very large population. There'll be all kinds of circumstances around which doctors will choose. There's some things that will bias towards one drug or another. But the good news is we have two medicines. Both can be effective in the fight against COVID-19.
Talk to us about those biases a little bit, because it is interesting that regulators seem to be signaling they prefer Pfizer's pill. Can you talk to us as to why, what the reasoning might be from your perspective?
Well, the FDA didn't say that they preferred one or the other. I think that we really are confident in molnupiravir's ability to be an important tool for patients in the fight against COVID-19. It's a medicine that can be administered within 5 days of symptom onset. It can be taken at home. One doesn't have to worry about what other medications you're taking or whether you've got things like kidney disease, which is an issue that is very common in people who are at risk for COVID-19. So I think it's important to have these various tools. Molnupiravir is going to be a very important one of them.
What about outside of the U.S.? Because France, for example, had scrapped their order for the antiviral pill and has been looking to Pfizer. So what kind of conversations are you having in terms of the availability in other countries and what patients would be most suited for this pill?
Well, actually, in the United Kingdom, for example, we have there have been requests for more supply. We've had agreements with several countries now in Europe and around the world. We also are really well ahead with the availability of molnupiravir in low and middle income countries. These countries, as you know, are facing a lot of shortage of vaccines and the same tidal wave of Omicron. And we have made agreements with low-cost manufacturers to be able to have those drugs available throughout the developing world. So actually, we believe we're in good shape. We have the right supply. We've been ahead of the curve in terms of demand, and we have a drug that can reduce mortality due to COVID-19 by 90% in patients at high risk.
How are you thinking about pricing as well?
Well, I think that the pricing is negotiated with each government. And the good news is for the American consumer is that there should be limited or no out of pocket, given that the governments are buying the drug. The key will be for patients to remember that if they have symptoms, to get tested, and if they get tested, to call their healthcare provider. Regardless of which tablet is being used, we need to start the medicines within 5 days of symptom onset.
Doctor, you started the conversation by saying that this drug will indeed be helpful against Omicron, the variant there. How much of a wild card has Omicron been? How much will variants be something that we have to continue to tackle with going forward?
Well, this is a really important question because the pandemic has shown us that COVID-19 is a very resilient virus. The good news is that molnupiravir attacks a very specific part of the viral life cycle that it has a high barrier to resistance, and we're going to need to have these kind of medicines available here now and in the future. And remember, with molnupiravir, we also have the ability to treat other viruses, perhaps the next pandemic virus, because it's a medicine that's active against a whole range of viruses. So we're going to have to keep an eye on this. We're going to have to develop new medicines and new therapies all the time to keep ahead of the curve.